dear Grace Carriers. Hey, it is your girl, Coach Pamela Hankins. I want to welcome you to the first episode of The Grace Effect. Now, listen, I am in awe. Can I just say that? I am in awe where God has taken me in the last year. So, 5 minutes to divine transformation. I'm just going to jump right in. Started because my business coach challenged me to get more familiar with public speaking, get more familiar with putting myself out there. And I was like, I ain't doing that. I'm like, oh no. She's like, oh, you could do an hour. I was like, an hour? Okay. But let me tell you, I was like, all they gonna get out of me is 5 minutes. That's it. Because I'm gonna be in and out. I would have never, ever, 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 ever imagined that a year really had started turning into 30-minute segments, maybe even. And so last week, matter of fact, it was this week, in a conversation, we discussed the evolution. And with that came a name change. And so for all of my Bible scholars that are out there, we know sometimes we've seen in the Bible people, when they had become evolved or transformed, they were given a new name. Abram went from Abraham. Saul went to Paul. Jacob went to Israel. So you get the point that I'm trying to make. And so with that, I guess it felt like it encouraged me that I needed a name change. And it wasn't that I was forced into it, but I realized it was where God was pushing me. And so I acquiesced, and after some thought, changed the name. So I'm sure some people wonder, why did I choose the name Grace Effect? And so it's funny because I have been trying to launch purse line called The Grace Effect. And with throwing names around that, someone came up with that name, and I was like, oh my goodness, there it is. Like, that is confirmation on where I should be going. May not be the confirmation as far as that's supposed to be the name of the bag line, but it definitely was confirmation in the name. So I, being who I am, always like to look at things and the meanings to ensure that the meanings properly align and they fit, right? So as I'm looking here on my phone for my cheat sheet with my definitions, because I cannot remember these definitions alone. I just want to read to you Grace, the definitions, because there may be some people, and I will always, because my personality is as such, I need to connect the dots. Like, I'm just not going to like let you tell me something, and if you tell it to me, if I don't understand it, I need to understand it. It has to connect. So, grace, for those who don't know, is defined as grace is more than favor. It is God's earned love, empowerment, covering, and divine assistance. Grace is what sustains you when strength runs low. Ain't that deep? It guides you when direction feels unclear. It carries you through seasons you never imagined surviving. Grace is not passive, it is active. It teaches, transforms, restores, and equips. Grace says God is working in me, through me, and for me. Biblically, grace is not simply receiving mercy, it is receiving power to become who God called you to be. Your influence cause influence produced by a cause. So cause and effect. If I hit you, that is the and I give you a gift that you feel, the tears of joy, especially the butterflies. That is the effect. An effect is evidence that something happened. It is what changes after an encounter. You cannot experience true transformation and remain unchanged. You pair grace, which is the impact, and the effect of grace. Something shifts, something moves, something grows. So, together, the grace and the effect together is the visible evidence of God's grace at work in your life. And when it happens, when faith meets obedience, when prayer meets action, when healing meets purpose, when transformation moves beyond inspiration and becomes a lifestyle, there is grace effect. So I want you to know the grace effect is just not a show. It is a movement. It is a movement for change. I just read you the definitions of grace, right? Grace is God's mercy. Grace is more than favor. It's undeserved, unearned love. It's empowerment. It's covering. So imagine if we did all those things just only in 5 minutes. What type of impact or effect would it have on anyone? Now, sure, I know there are things that say you can exercise in 5 minutes a day, read your Bible 5 minutes a day. And you know what? And those are great starting points. Those are great ways to push you and shift you into grace. I use grace as an acronym. you're grounded in faith, you realign your purpose. The alignment is an alignment to what God's desire and plans are for you. You connect to the source, which is God Almighty. And E stands for empowerment, because when you've done all of those things, you feel empowered. You feel greater empathy, even for your brothers and sisters, when you truly show grace. See, when I've reconnected to the Father and I know that there's somebody going through a particular situation, even if I have not gone through that situation, I can be sympathetic. I can be empathetic the more if I've been in that particular situation. And so then in that, I can show even a greater level of grace. So it is my hope that through the grace effect, that there would be global impact. Can you imagine one person showed another person grace, especially in a situation when it was not deserving, but when it was needed? See, that's the difference between grace. God gives us grace not because we earned it. He gives it to us because He knows we need it. And because He loves us so much. And so I'm sure you're like, okay, when you speak in reference to grace, it may be you're thinking, oh, well, I'm not married, or I'm not, or do you have to date on? Sometimes you need to and should show yourself grace. Prime example. From last week all the way up this week, busy. When I was even on vacation, still busy. I think I had it so drilled in my head that idle time is the devil's workshop, that I triggered myself, or trained myself, if you will, to stay busy. But guess what? There's some things that I could have done that probably really needed my attention. Yeah, absolutely, for sure. But the question is, did I? I gave myself grace. So much so that my husband was like, girl, you mean you ain't up and out? And I'm like, not today. And so as the grace effect evolves, so will you, and so will I. And can you imagine if we lived in a world where everyone evolved into better beings, better human beings. A book that I read in high school that I had to do a book report on is coming out in the movie. I think it may already be out. Something about that book has stuck with me since I was 18 years old. Now, I didn't really like reading, and that wasn't a book that I really wanted to read, I should say. It didn't really catch my interest, but there were pieces about that book that caught my interest and stayed with me to this day, which now will make me sit down and watch the movie. And I don't want to, but I'll just give an overview. And I know sometimes even when they create books, I mean, a movie from a book, it's not always necessarily the book itself, but it does have a lot of the same storyline. So I don't know, just give you my recollection of over 40 something years, 2 years of reading the book. But what I recall, I don't think they were high schoolish. Maybe if they were like maybe seventh, eighth grade, middle school, somewhere around there, but they get stranded on this island. And they have to learn how to survive. And primitive. It doesn't show in the particular situation being stranded on a desert island. Now, keep in mind, we all grow and learn differently. We grow at different times. So when we have some people who grow faster or learn faster, you have to give grace to people who don't necessarily learn faster. If some people adapt to a particular situation a lot faster, we have to give grace to those who may lag a little bit behind. And in this book, there wasn't a lot of grace all the time. And the lack of it didn't really show a lot of humanity either. And just in this thought, as I'm speaking, grace, I heard in my head humanity. Giving grace when it's needed, but not earned, is what we would do as humans versus what maybe animals may or may not do. So sometimes there may be a coworker on your job who can be a bit much, who may need grace. Because we don't know in that moment when they're being a bit much, what caused that to be or why they became what they are. Case in point, I had to work with on this particular project, and as I was going through it and learning it and everything, and I found out that the numbers, the logic, the way that it was producing the numbers were like incorrect. And at her level, for her particular job, and I can't think of what the exact title is, but they're like mathematicians on steroids. They do a lot of statistics and analytics with numbers. And when I told her, that lady went up one side of me and down another. Now, mind you, I'm new on the job. I'm just not long trying to get my feet wet into, America. And this lady reams me out. So I say something to the project manager who was managing the project, how she did that. And she was like, oh, wow, I'm sorry to hear that. She said she's not always been that way. And I was like, She said her husband, tragic car accident. And I'm like, oh, wow. And so I'm glad that I had that discernment and not go to from 0 to 100 real quick and say anything back to her and be like, you ain't gonna be talking to me like that, because I can. I have. And if necessary, I will. Trust me. I'm human. But I'm glad I didn't, because I can't possibly fathom and imagine the grace that she needed. Even if it had been a year, can you imagine two people that you love all of a sudden tragically pass away in a car accident? That she needed to give herself guilt that she may have been feeling in their loss, or even feeling like maybe she should have been there, or what if she would have said no. Like, we never know. I won't know what she was feeling and processing even a year later. But I'm glad I did not jump on her. Now, later, she apologized. She would have not apologized. She would have not thought about, wow, I really went off on that young lady, and all she did was try to tell me that my calculations were incorrect as far as the logic was concerned. Well, the logic was incorrect for the calculations that it was producing. And she really saved my behind, because had this thing gone into production and it miscalculated stuff, it could have come back and she probably would have needed more than grace. It could have been the level of the project we were implementing, the logic that would help for healthcare.gov for when you can determine and decide what type of insurance you would be eligible for based upon the information that you put in, where you live at, all of that. And so with that, it wasn't like I was trying to come in like the new kid on the block. I'm going to show her out. Was just doing my job. And my job was to ensure that everything was correct. But it wasn't. And then my job was also to understand, because in meetings and they would ask questions or want to know, I could report back on something and be like, okay, I understood it. But I had to dig into it and play with it to be able to understand it so that I could speak to it with confidence, and that I knew exactly what I was talking about, and that I just wasn't sitting there as a pretty face that they had hired, because they didn't hire me to sit back and be pretty. They hired me to do a job. And so with that, I'm happy um, that I gave her grace a moment. And so with that, can you imagine in a world where people are being, their lives are changing, and more than what we have grown accustomed to. I mean, since 2020, we and so grace would need to be given as we adapt to change. And so I just wanted to launch the grace effect. I see I have someone out here. I always take a shout out, but I never actually sometimes take and look at my phone. So, oh, I have someone out here. Dr. Tina, that was you. I'm sorry. That is something I have to learn, is to be able to pay attention. But I just want to say, give yourself grace. And I'm excited about even the grace that I've given to myself in reference to the grace effect. It is going, which is something new for me. I will be bringing on guests. And so is already booked. I have a special guest coming on that day. Well, all my guests who will be coming back will be special. But this guest that will be attending on June 13th, if she's listening, the 13th is all yours, is amazing. When I say amazing, I mean absolutely amazing. The lineup of individuals who will be coming on are so amazing. When I say we're going to talk about relationships, we're going to talk about relationships in so many different facets, because relationships are so multifaceted. We're going to talk about finding love after 50. So, to all of my sisters out there, and even brothers who are not looking, or who are looking, love is still there. One of my guests, OMG, that I got to get her slotted. She did say that she would do it. This particular guest, love is just truly in the air for her. She got married And in not even 7 months, the same year, I don't even think it was 2 months apart, her son got married. Married probably when her son announced that he. So I'm excited about her coming on the show. There is another young lady. She is definitely, when I say special to me and dear and near, the relationship that we have formed over the last year or so. Actually, it's been almost 2 years, which is so crazy. Um, to know somebody and really have true adoration for them and never have seen them like in person is truly mind blowing to me how that can even be possible. And this young lady, I'm telling you, she is amazing. So I have one more spot for the Grace Effect that I'm going to be doing for free. One more. And so the first person who reaches out to me to say that they would like to come on my show, I will have you on my show. And so I'm really, 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 really excited um, about it. And I just will say this, I kind of struggled even about the cost, but I keep in mind StreamYard. That is challenging. That cost. Spectrums, internet costs. Um, the electricity that is needed, it costs. And so know that me will go to a nonprofit that my husband and I have started 6 years ago called Operation 412NC. So portion of my proceeds definitely go into Operation 412NC. But I want to announce and talk to you coming out. And download the free Love and Relationship ebook, which is valued at $20 at www.phankins.com. You can also, while you are there, lady or a woman who is in a leadership position in ministry, sign up. I encourage you to sign up for Grace to Carry the Calling. When I say this masterclass will blow your socks off, it's called Grace to Carry the Calling. This masterclass, unfortunately, is not free, but it is for an investment in yourself of $97. I think the best investment you can possibly do is the one in yourself. People will not invest in you. Let me tell you what I know. People will not invest in you until they see. So there are still plenty of seats, but I would encourage you to stay near and close because I will be running a special. And when I announce that special, That special is going to be a buy one, get one free special. And it will be for 24 hours only. So that means you need to be following me on my social media pages, which is the Pamela Hankins on Instagram. I'm Pamela Hankins on Facebook. You can find me on TikTok. I'm Coach Pamela Hankins on LinkedIn, but it will be for 24 hours only. Buy one, get one free. So that means if you pay $97, you then, I will then reach out to you and ask your free person is. It's just that simple. So stay close and stay tuned. And so with that, I just want to say you for taking the time to share this video, this live, to back, get familiar, not to ask me anything, but to tell you the basis of the change of from 5 minutes to divine transformation to the Grace Effect with Coach Pamela Hankins. But what I want to say most is I want to say thank you, thank you, thank you. And when I say thank you, I mean thank you. I want to say thank you to my business coach, Coach P, Pamela Luheen, aka Coach P, for pushing me. I'm on here 38 minutes and counting. A year ago, that wasn't your girl. I want to thank my Toastmasters family for encouraging me, because I would have been nervous Nelly even doing out there in Facebook land, who have clicked, tagged, shared, supported, watched my episodes, the words of encouragement. I want to say thank you. I want to say thank you to those who will start watching it, who didn't. I want to say thank you. So with that, I always close with thank you for taking the time to meet me here to unleash the divine in you. And so with that, I'm going to just put my QR code up for my website. And then I'm going to say, be blessed. Here next week, 8 p.m. Eastern, for the next episode of The Grace Effect with your girl, Coach Pamela Hankins. All right, dear Grace Carriers, I need you to listen. Meet me back here next Saturday, 8 p.m. of The Grace Effect with Coach Pamela Hankins. And remember what I said a few minutes ago. Don't forget to take the time to unleash the divine in you. Be blessed. frame ended.